Jeanne Selvage from Marketron, and with me today I've got Natalie Marsh from Lotus Communications in Las Vegas. Natalie, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
Good, thank you. Of course, you can detect my Australian accent, and I've got a couple of really good questions for you about what you did during the COVID pandemic, if you're up for that.
Okay, let's do it.
Fantastic. So, right back in the beginning, back in 2020, what did you do when the shutdowns first arrived?
After I panicked and took a deep breath, it was weird. Here in Vegas, a strip shut down. That I've lived here my whole life. That's never happened before. And so once we wrapped our head around it, then the next question was, what do we do with the sales team? How do we engage with our clients? And so really, we've always focused on relationship with our clients. And so this was our chance to sort of practice what we preached and reach out to them and tell the salespeople, we just want to find out, are they okay? Do they need anything? Maybe they just need to talk. Yeah. Maybe they just need somebody to listen. And then as restaurants started getting ways to deliver and they started pivoted for their business model, then we reached out to those clients to do trade for their business, and then we took that trade and delivered meals to our clients and their families. And so it was just a way for us to really let them know that we cared, even though we were all kind of freaking out, right?
Indeed, and that's the beauty of local radio, isn't it? It's one of the things that sets us apart. It's so important to do that.
Yeah.
I'm really interested. What did the strip look like shut down?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I avoided it at all cost. I thought it would be too depressing. Now, I saw a lot of video of people that biked it and walked it and, really took advantage of something that they'll never be able to do again. But I couldn't do it. I was just like, I don't really want to see it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And so how did you keep your salespeople motivated? Was it just that caring aspect, or were there other things that you did?
Well, we really focused on, the caring aspect and the relationship. And then when it came to them individually, we wanted to make sure we were listening to them. So one thing I did was I immediately took away their budgets, right? Like, there are no budgets. This is just about, what can we do to get some small wins, whether that's just, focusing on the calls with the clients and then maybe finding some new categories that were open, because there were businesses that were open and thriving. And so we would give them leads, and then we would just celebrate every win. It didn't matter, $200, $500, every win was a huge win, and so that they could feel good about what they were doing. And I think the first part laid into that, right? Because we were just focused on relationship, and then we were helping them focus on some small wins. And we also came up with projects that helped the clients feel good. So some of them were funny, post your funniest mask video. Some of them were food related, like what is everybody learning how to cook right now? Sharing with our listeners, but helping our clients tie into that. So they were doing something they felt good about, even, graduation signs for the kids that didn't get to have a graduation ceremony. So that was kind of the ways that we just tried to think out of the box. Yeah. Like, how can we help the salespeople feel good about what we're doing during all of this?
Yeah, that's really interesting and a great way, again, of engaging the community. So that's a wonderful thing. And how did you adapt when the business started returning? Because that's really tricky, right?
Yeah, and some salespeople are really good, right? They just go with the flow, or the raging rapids kind of in this instance. But some struggled. And so the one-on-ones that I try to focus on every week became even that much more important, so that I could really determine what each individual salesperson was struggling with and how we could help them. And 2021, as things were really, you could kind of tell that, okay, we've got some idea of what this is going to look like for a while. Budgets returned. Accountability, expectations, they weren't pre-COVID budgets by any means, but they were enough to give them a little bit of a push. And I think that helped them focus. Like, this is something we know how to do. This is something we can control. And so we try to put those normal things back into place to help them feel comfortable sort of returning, because, you know, clients were still scared to meet. They were still scared to go out. So this was just about those. I think the one-on-ones just became more important than ever, so we could talk through those challenges.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess there's a little bit of sort of muscle memory that goes with that as well, isn't it? Of re-engaging.
Exactly, like riding a bike, right? So you just kind of remember. If you've been doing it a long time, you're like, okay, I know how to do this. I got it.
And what do you think was the biggest change that you introduced during that COVID time?
I think, you know, change is so hard for people, but there were things that we looked at. So I'm a big advocate of diversity in client base and categories. And so we noticed during this, we had some vulnerable areas that we didn't realize. They were sort of hidden, maybe because it was a big biller, and so it didn't look like it was so much of their account. But there were categories that didn't return for 18 months in Vegas. And so we really learned how to even go deeper, and connected with a company that helped us from a lead source perspective, so that we could have, you know, dig for those different kinds of categories and new categories. Recruitment became a big deal, and it was something that we had tried to focus on in the past as a radio station, because newspaper is where you used to go for the one ads, and you know, that just really wasn't. But where do you find that space between sort of a LinkedIn and a monster.com, and then what a local radio station could do? And I think some of this helped us, you know, help clients, but find that diversity by, you know, partnering with a company for lead sources that in the past we may not have really realized that we needed.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's that old saying, necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it? Just really stretches you.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And so did you keep any of those things? Are there any silver linings that you look at and go, wow, without COVID, we never would have done that?
I feel like Zoom or video conferencing was something that it would have taken us a lot longer to jump into that. You know, nobody feels comfortable being on camera, staring at themselves while they're doing it. But we had to. We were forced to. But I think the benefit, even though I'm all in on going back in person with my clients, is what about the ones that are out of state? And now you have this personal relationship that you don't get in email or on the phone that we were able to establish, or clients that just from a time constraint standpoint were very reluctant to set appointments even if they were local, and now you can easily get them on a Zoom. So I think that's here to stay. I think it's something that will last. I think the other thing is, we thought as Americans that we had a really good grasp on work-life balance, and we learned that we did not. When you're at home with your family, much more than you ever had been, you realize you should be doing this more. And so it kind of created, I've heard it called two things: the Great Resignation and the Great Renegotiation. I think is like sort of the new twist. But I think it all comes down to that work-life balance. And corporations are going to have to figure out how to give their teams some flexibility in order to achieve that. You know, it may not be remote every day, but, you know, remote once a week, so that they can find a way to challenge themselves for that work-life balance. For me, I will stay in the office until all the work is done, if I allow myself. And I go in at like 6:30 in the morning. And so I've allowed myself to be okay with leaving at 5 o'clock so I can have dinner with my husband at a normal time, because it was so nice during COVID to have dinner with him on a regular basis versus, you know, just the weekends. So
that's great. And I guess then you're doing that for your staff as well, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And we're married to our phones in a way that 10 years ago we weren't. So they're texting and emailing with clients and answering calls, even when they're home.
Yeah.
So, it's just that mindset that you had to sort of change and let go. And this forced us to say, they don't have to be here for us to know they're working, especially salespeople. You kind of know when they're working, right? Or if they're not working.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Natalie, thanks so much for coming in today. And it sounds like Lotus is a great place to work. So anybody out there, contact Natalie, right?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Thank you.